Welcome to the Power Collab August Edition in the Power Platform Learner series. In this comprehensive series, you will discover a curated collection of the expert discussions and the deep dive into the world of Dataverse, Dynamics CRM, Power Platform, and the Microsoft Copilot. So whether you are a seasoned professional or a curious newcomer, the series offer a value insight into these powerful tools. Learn from the industry leaders as they share their knowledge and experience, and explore the advanced features and provide the tips and tricks to help you to maximize your use of these platform. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel to stay updated as we continue to add more content here. Today, we are having a great lineup of the speakers, but I would like to start from myself and let me just share my screen. I would like to give a brief about the Copilot introduction into the Power Platform Admin Center. As Copilot and the generative AI features light up across the Microsoft Power Platform, admin increasingly need help governing these features. So to address these features, Microsoft had introduced a preview of the Copilot page in the Power Platform Admin Center, a centralized location for the readiness of the resources, documentation, Copilot user activity, and also unified Copilot setting. You can do it from here. So if you can see like the whole page, how does it look like? So you have basically the educational resources where the set of the links which help you to get started with a Copilot, answer your questions about the data and the security fundamentals for the AI features. And you can stay up to date with the new Copilot releases also there because you will get all the new things like intro things, detailed discussion, plus what's new next into the Copilot. Then apart from that, you have a user's insight here. So on the user's insight, basically it helps you to understand how many users are leveraging the Copilot in the Power Apps or the Power Automate or the Power Pages or probably into the Copilot Studio. So you will get all of the 360-degree view from here. Then you have a governance section, and governance control help you to see what Copilot features are available, how many environments they are enabled in, and how to manage all of them together. So then the last one is the content moderation. And with the help of the content moderation, you will get the information to shed lights on the responsible AI principles you can put into the practice. So you will get all of those insights here. Right now, there's nothing because I have just spin up the environment and there is nothing much into that one. But if you have a running environment where you have a lot of the use cases, functionality deployed and customers or users are using that one, then you will get a good insight there. So this is really a short update from my end. And then I would like to ask Marius to provide his view.
Thanks, Ambesh. I have something that I have missed in the Wave update. So and that thing, so I saw this one here, analyze opportunities with grouping and aggregating in the release notes, and I will tell you in a second why I'm not particularly impressed by this. So this is the new opportunities grid, and by the way, this is the experience you would usually get with this combo thing where you have the charts here at the top and then a list at the bottom, but I want to see the list right now. So there are new options here. So sorting and filter by was there previously, but you have now group by. And I will group here by month. And then you see I have one in August, 10 in September, and so on. And we can unfold them to see the usual things. But then I can do one more thing, and that is because I've grouped now, I can select on a different column totals. So this is the aggregation part. So you can see, I mean, the displaying is not optimal in this case, but you see it summed up all the opportunities within September. It aggregated it. So this is kind of nice. Previously, we would have done a chart to do this, right? In the chart, we would have done the grouping and then the sum of as the y-axis, and everything would be fine, but we can now do it in the grid directly, which is of course quicker than defining a chart. And if you just want an insight, yeah, that's better. But I'm not particularly impressed by this because this is specific to opportunities. So you cannot do this in any other grid, right? And yeah, okay, if the customer likes this, they might want to have it on a custom entity or on quotes or anywhere else. And that is what I've missed because there is another feature, and this is not in the Dynamics world, but in the Power Platform world, in Power Apps, you have act on your data efficiently with new grid features. And this is not in early access right now. It will become available in October. And here you have this grouping and aggregating, which is the thing for the general grid that we just saw. So this is kind of an MVP probably that Microsoft released for the opportunity that we will get in general, yeah, for the model-driven apps. There are more points in here. You can see a lot of things in here. For example, column reordering by drag and drop. So right now I need to use edit columns, and then here I can use drag and drop. But so according to the docs, you will be able to just grab a column and drag it here, which is super nice. And then there is this thing, command bar for nested grids. So correct command bar when a row in a nested grid is selected. And that's the second thing I want to show you. So I have here, so with custom tables, this is made here, and I have a subgrid here. And then you can, I think in the bottom one, yes, in the bottom one here, I can unfold this grid record and then have another subgrid below it with more records. And then look right here, I have delete test table 2. And if I select a record, sorry, let me deselect this one. And hopefully it does work now. Yes. Okay, give me a second. Now I have it correctly, but you see this is kind of shaky at the moment. You have delete test table 3 down here. So the command bar behaves already to what I select in the grid. So if I select 2 levels, okay, that won't work because I have 2 different records selected. But if I select in the second level, it will still display the correct buttons. And I mean, that's super nice because without leaving this top level form, I can see 2 levels down of child entities, and I can even act on that data. So for example, deactivating and deleting entries, and maybe if I work with custom buttons, I can do so in the subgrids. And if you want to use that, that's just a little trick because this is not the standard grid that you get in subgrids. But here in components, so this would be the default subgrid, you add the editable grid. And in this editable grid, you have here the subgrid options where you select, okay, I want the test table 3, and then here's the lookup that is the important one for selecting which are the child records. Yeah, and I mean, just based on how long this list here is, we have the infinite scrolling that we saw on home grids already in this listed here, and yeah, styling shall be better. So that's like a big announcement that just missed me totally because it was not in the Dynamics world, but in the Power Apps world. And this is kind of my reminder, okay, you really need to look into both release wave docs if you are working with Dynamics, because especially Power Apps and Power Automate, they will affect you, period. And then with that, I will hand over to Swetha.
Thanks a lot, Marius. That was a wonderful feature. Huh? Today, I would be not presenting any demo, but would be sharing one experience with you all about an issue that me and my team faced a couple of weeks back. Today, I would be speaking about some constraints that we should be careful about while we are writing FetchXML WebAPI queries. And this was the issue that we faced in our production environment and all our environments a couple of weeks back. So what happened was that our Power Pages website, which was actually fetching data from multiple Dataverse tables, all of a sudden we log into the application on Monday morning and there are only labels, there is no data. We could not see any data on multiple web pages that were being built in our Power Pages site. We tested around it a bit and we found out that it was working only for an administrator web role. So the out of the box web role that's available. And it did not work for all the other custom web roles that we were using in our project. And we were clueless because it was working like a couple of days back, like yesterday, and then today it stopped working. So we raised a Microsoft ticket for this. And as a part of the root cause analysis that was done, I would like to share our findings with you. So what happened was that our page was making multiple API calls using jQuery. And the API calls were using FetchXML queries, which were joining multiple Dataverse tables. So we were having many linked entities. And over that, we were using web roles, which was also, again, a chain of multiple table permissions. And through the root cause analysis, we found out that this issue, and of course, Microsoft provided us a fix for this, but then this issue happens only when we are using parent scope permissions configured on entity, which is using many-to-many relationship with the entities in the parent permission. So only for this specific kind of table permission, this issue existed. And that's why then a fix was provided by Microsoft. But then the last part that you can see in the root cause analysis was like a constraint that they told us to keep in mind. Of course, our linked entities that we used were much lower than 16, but this is something that all of us can keep in mind, that the number of linked entities that we use in our web API queries should not exceed 16. So this is one thing that we should keep in mind. And then the time that it took, right? It took us like about 24 hours or like about 36 hours for them to deploy the fix because it was a production issue as well. But then they gave us a workaround, which was to use a site setting called skip related table permissions. And what, as the name suggests, what this site setting does is that it skips the permissions that are being used on the related tables in the expand clause of your web API query. It will honor the permissions on the base entity, but not on the related tables. So if you're not using if you're not doing role-based testing and you just want to unblock the testing on dev test, on pre-prod, etc., then this is the one workaround that you can use. But this is something certainly not recommended for production because of course, the security concern. But then we use this site setting to unblock our teams on pre-prod on a dev test to enable them to test while the fix was provided by Microsoft. So I just wanted to share with you this workaround because when we faced this issue, we also searched a lot. This issue has been reported on the community as well, but this workaround was not shared anywhere. So this was something that could be useful for you in case you happen to face this issue in the future. So that's it from my side. Thanks a lot. And now I will pass it on to Milad.
Thanks, Sita. I will talk about Power Platform and virtual networks, and especially Power Platform and virtual network support. Let's go into situation why you should consider it. We have the Power Platform with, of course, Power Apps, Power Automate, Dataverse, and potentially also have some Azure resources like Azure Blob Storage, Azure SQL servers, Azure Functions, or whatever. And you might also have some on-premise resources. Kafka, or you run a Apache web server with own APIs. And yeah, normally the Power Platform would access those services through a connector through a public IP address. And of course, at some companies or maybe also in your organization, it is blocked due to network / firewall settings, because no public inbound connections is allowed. Yeah, this is something which also I experienced in the past, so that we couldn't establish a connection to those resources because of those settings. It can be the case that the cybersecurity department says, every storage, every database or storage account you are using is not allowed to be on a public, shouldn't be available through public networks. And therefore, you're coming into that simple that simple scenario where your enterprise network, for example, is connected through a virtual network, but your Power Platform environment cannot access it. So what's the solution on that? The Power Platform has a new feature called virtual network support. It is included only on managed environments, so you can only enable that on managed environments. And this could bring you to the following scenario, that you have your Power Platform environment, which is connected to your virtual network, which also gives you the possibility to then connect to your Azure resources, which normally wouldn't be allowed to be accessible from the public network. But now, since your environment is doing the request within your own virtual network, it doesn't consider the Power Platform as a, let's say, unknown or public resource. It's now considered as a trustful internal resource, which is running within your enterprise network. Which is running into your enterprise network. And therefore you could also then access your on-premise resources, which are connected to the virtual network through express route, which gives you, of course, more security on the first place, because you are not accessing your resources from the internet. It gives you also the possibility, but I'm sorry, I'm not the network security guy, but you can also apply some security rules on that. So, for example, that the Power Platform cannot establish a connection outside your virtual network. So this would also be possible. And it basically enhances your security throughout your enterprise. And how to enable that? I'll show you that now from the Microsoft documentation. So it's more or less how you like to define it as a simple process. So if we look through the documentation, we see here that you need to have some prerequisites, of course. The first and the most important thing is that your Power Platform environment needs to be a managed environment, which also means that every Power App and Power Automate flow which you are running within that environment is automatically a premium app or flow, which also means that every user who's accessing those Power Platform components needs to have a Power App per app or Power App premium license. Furthermore, of course, you need to create a virtual network within your Azure subscription. This is what you can see here. And there's one important thing. This is also why you also need PowerShell, but this is also available for PowerShell 7. You need to run some PowerShell scripts to even enable that your Power Platform can basically inject into your subnet of your virtual network. So basically from the process here, you're setting up your virtual network. You then need to run the following script, which you can see here. So basically, if you open that, you will be directly directed to those scripts. And then also with a script, you're creating an injection enterprise policy, which gives you then access from the Power Platform to the virtual network. And of course, you need to run that script for your environment as well. And how that would look like is there is no, let's say, UI. This has been configured pop up, but you can see it in the history of your environment that the network injection policy has been created. Therefore, also the Power Platform connectors do support this now, some at least. When we look into the supported services, we see, of course, Dataverse plugins, but this is, let's say, for those which are a bit more experienced with the platform and are also able to write plugins or using third-party plugins, but also that I'm not so familiar with Dataverse plugins in this regard. But let's say the more important stuff which you might use already within your enterprise is SQL Server, Azure Blob Storage, also very important, Azure Key Vault to really access your secrets securely. And yeah, very interesting feature. Please don't ask what production ready preview means. Yeah, which is kind of, is it production ready or is it in preview? We don't know. But yeah, it's a pretty new feature, of course, which will be definitely enhanced in the next months, I'm guessing. And yeah, this is a great feature, which really puts the security level for your Power Platform components into a much higher level. Thanks. And with this, I will forward to Jürgen with his topic. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. And my topic will be a little bit lighter one, no technical input from my side now. But starting off, for example, with a pretty new certification that is available currently in beta. It's the MB280. It's focusing on Dynamics 365 sales and customer experience. So it's a combination from the topics. You have to know, on the one hand, the sales module, you have to configure security roles, advanced sales stuff that are more in the premium area of the sales license, how to configure goals, setting up the app for Outlook. But on the other hand, you have questions how customer experience and journeys interact with sales. So you need to know both applications. And I think it's a pretty nice certification combining these two functionalities, because in regular projects, it's often that you have some parts working in marketing, some parts working in sales, and you have always these interactions. And now having a certification that really digs into these scenarios and you need to configure it, it's a nice one from my perspective.
Jörg, you just mentioned it's two things. No, it's three things even, because there were three certifications before, because so we had the sales part, and then the customer insights part was split into journeys and data as well. So the marketing side of things was still split, and now this is all in one certification, which is kind of a lot, right?
If you take it like this, you can always also add a part of, I think it's now deprecated, Maker, because you also have to do some, have some knowledge about Dataverse model-driven app modeling, relationships, relationship behavior. So these topics are also included in this certification. So it's really one of the higher certifications where you really need knowledge about the platform itself and especially the Dynamics applications. So that's quite nice. And I'm looking forward, maybe something like this will also happen for customer service and field service, because these are also two very related apps in the Dynamics market. So having there a combination of both might be interesting as well. In addition, there are also some upcoming community events at the end of this month, beginning next month. So first of all, in about 2 weeks, there's a BalticSummit in Poland, where you can join, I think it's the weekend of 13th to 14th September. Then we will have, of course, in America, the Power Platform conference, which is advertised by Microsoft. So this is really big event, but then there are also other smaller events like the Manchester M365 Summit taking place at the end of September. And there's on Saturday, it's a summit, but the whole week before there are different slots focusing on security, Azure, Power Automate. So some boot camps before with which you can also attend, so really have a look there. And parallel, there's a Nordic Summit also on the 27th and 28th. So both are on the same weekend. And last but not least, in October, there's a Scottish Summit on the 18th and 19th of October. So this is one really big event with a really huge agenda and lots of speakers. I'm pretty sure I'm missing some of the events, and I'm really glad that the community is so active, having already these in-person events. So all events that I mentioned are in-person, not virtual events, but there might be a lot of other user groups, conferences where you can join, which are nearby to you. And it's really a recommendation. Reach out to these user groups, conferences, engage yourself in the community, connect with people, and have some fun. So yeah, so that's from my side today. And I think everyone is also through with their topics. So thank you very much for joining today. Any comments from your side, Ambesh, Virat, Sveta?
Thank you all of you here to be in the call and just provide your valuable tips and the tricks to the audience, and as well to extend your tremendous support. Please subscribe to the channel, like and share the videos within the community. Provide your feedbacks in the comment section that what topics you would like to cover as next. And if you want to join the Power Collab group also and learn along with us, just drop a message, anyone in the group. Till that, have a great time and happy learning. Thank you so much again.